Okay, let's unpack this. We're diving into something pretty fascinating today. Is it actually possible to make our brains, smarter, more focused, more productive, and crucially, without nasty side effects?
Right.
We've got a whole stack of sources here looking at nootropics, these so-called smart drugs, but also their natural alternatives.
Uh-huh.
So our mission today really is to filter through all this noise and figure out the best, safest ways to genuinely boost your cognitive performance. Separate the hype from the real brain upgrades.
Yeah, and to do that, we first need to nail down what a nootropic actually is. It's not just, anything that makes you feel buzzed or
Yeah,
awake.
not just caffeine.
Exactly. For something to truly qualify, it has to meet some pretty strict criteria. It needs to stimulate learning and short-term memory, yes, but also help sustain learned habits even when you're under serious pressure or stress.
Okay, so performance under pressure is key. And what about safety? That's often the first thing people worry about when they hear smart drugs. What are the hard lines for something to be considered a safe nootropic?
Well, safety is absolutely paramount. A healthy nootropic must protect the brain from physical or chemical harm and, critically, have no adverse effects. Zero.
Zero side effects. That sounds like a tall order.
It is. And technically speaking, it also needs to cross the blood-brain barrier, actually get into the brain to work. It should increase brain metabolism, make it work more efficiently. But, and this is crucial, it must not modify the EEG, the electroencephalogram signals.
Wait, the EEG. Why is that measurement so important? What does that tell us?
Well, modifying the EEG suggests a drug is fundamentally altering basic brain rhythms. That points to a really deep shift in function that could signal, potential problems down the line. That's an immediate disqualifier for a safe nootropic.
Okay.
It should enhance the system you have, not try to radically rewrite the whole operating code, if that makes sense.
That distinction definitely helps. Okay, so with that definition locked in, let's briefly touch on the synthetic side. Just for context,
What?
we kind of need a baseline. Modafinil, for instance. Lots of entrepreneurs use it, apparently, because it cuts fatigue and boosts dopamine and acetylcholine neurotransmitters vital for memory and learning speed.
Yeah, and what's really interesting, something one source highlighted, is that modafinil seems to work much better as a smart drug for people starting with a lower baseline IQ.
Oh, really? So for people already operating at a high cognitive level, the effects might be less dramatic.
It seems so. The returns diminish significantly, suggesting it might be more about bringing lower baselines up rather than pushing high performers even higher. We also briefly see mentions of things like methylphenidate, Ritalin and ampakines used in early Alzheimer's research.
So if modafinil mainly boosts lower baselines, and it's temporary anyway, like renting focus instead of owning it, does that sort of push us back towards looking at natural methods for real long-term growth?
Exactly. And that brings us to the absolute core mechanism, whether we're talking synthetic or natural. Neuronal plasticity. This is the key. It's the fundamental process for improving performance, reasoning, adaptability, everything, really.
So plasticity isn't just about remembering facts. It's about the brain physically changing, like the structure itself.
Precisely. When you learn something new, your neural networks literally change shape. They form new connections, strengthen others. They are physically modified and will never process that specific information in quite the same way again.
Okay, I like the analogy the sources used here. Once you truly learn, deep down, that tons of sugar is bad for you, your brain networks are changed. Even if you still decide to eat the dessert sometime,
Right.
you know it's not good.
That knowledge is now, hardwired in.
That's it exactly. That permanent change in the brain's architecture is what makes you more adaptable, more capable down the road. So we're really looking for methods that promote that lasting upgrade, not just a temporary boost.
Which naturally leads us to the safer, long-term options. Let's dig into some of the plant-based and, interestingly, fungal nootropics that seem to offer these kinds of benefits. Starting with a classic from traditional Chinese medicine, ginkgo biloba. Ah, yes, ginkgo. It's long been seen as a symbol of longevity, vitality, and the research is pretty compelling. Studies show it has the capacity to actually help produce new neurons.
Wow, okay. New neurons. That's definitely a lasting upgrade.
Absolutely. True growth.
And the sources were great on dosing specifics here, depending on the goal. For an immediate boost, like before an exam, you'd want that short-term memory spike. So 120 to 240 milligrams, taken about 1 to 4 hours beforehand.
Right. But then if your aim is more long-term preventing cognitive decline, maybe warding off dementia later in life, you'd switch strategy. Lower dose, maybe 40 to 120 milligrams, but taken daily. It becomes less of an acute tool and more of a chronic protective shield.
So ginkgo helps build new parts of the house, essentially. What about maintaining the existing structure, making sure the foundations and plumbing are solid? That seems to be where dancing comes in, another one from Chinese medicine.
Yeah, Danshin or DSS, think of it as the brain's infrastructure crew. It's really good at stimulating the formation of new blood vessels.
Ah, so it's not directly firing neurons, it's improving the delivery routes.
Exactly. It's ensuring the vascular network, the roads delivering oxygen and nutrients, is robust and healthy. That's why it's so beneficial for preventing damage and aiding recovery after something like a stroke. Plus, it acts as an antioxidant, fighting the kind of damage we see in diseases like Alzheimer's or Parkinson's.
Okay, interesting. Infrastructure matters. Now, for something that really jumped out from the sources, lion's mane mushroom. This one sounds like it could be a real game changer.
It's definitely getting a lot of attention, and for good reason. Lion's mane is packed with neuroprotective compounds called beta-glucans, and also these unique things called arenosines and hericinones. Like ginkgo, it stimulates new neuron formation and nerve growth after injury.
Okay, similar benefits there. But you mentioned something else, something about speeding up the whole process.
Yes.
Myelination.
Yes, this is maybe the most fascinating part. Lion's mane increases myelination. Myelin is the fatty sheath that wraps around nerve fibers around the axons.
Like insulation on a wire.
Exactly like insulation on an electrical wire. More myelin means faster, more efficient signal transmission between neurons. So lion's mane is essentially helping to physically wire your brain circuits for speed, better communication, faster recall, improved cognitive processing overall.
Wow. So it's building and accelerating. What's the typical dose for that?
The sources suggest a pretty wide range, anywhere from 750 milligrams up to about 3 grams per day.
Got it. Okay, let's pivot slightly to energy. This is another interesting connection. Why do things like maca, which most people probably associate with energy or libido, and creatine, usually seen as a muscle supplement, actually help with cognition?
It boils down to energy supply. The brain is incredibly energy hungry. Per pound, it uses more energy than any other organ. So cognitive performance isn't just about raw intelligence, it's heavily dependent on the sheer amount of energy available to power all those neurons firing.
So more fuel equals better performance potential. Simple as that.
Pretty much. When you provide more readily usable energy, the brain can simply do more, faster, and for longer. Maca, typically dosed at 1 to 3 grams, helps provide that energy. And creatine does too, by improving cellular energy recycling.
And maca had another trick too, right? Something about autophagy?
Yeah, that's right. When taken while fasting, maca seems to accelerate autophagy. That's the body's process for cleaning out and recycling old, damaged cellular components. So it helps keep neurons healthier for longer. It's like a smart drug that also does the cellular housekeeping.
I like that. Cellular housekeeping. Okay, finally in this section, let's look at Bacopa from the Ayurvedic tradition. This one seems less about raw speed or infrastructure and more targeted, maybe towards behavior and long-term protection.
That's a good way to put it. Bacopa shines in protecting neurons in specific brain areas linked to behavior, reward circuits, and that crucial process of converting short-term memories into long-term storage. We're talking about key areas like the prefrontal cortex, the hippocampus, the striatum.
So if Bacopa is hitting those areas, is it fair to say it's maybe less for pulling an all-nighter and more for, say, long-term emotional balance or reinforcing positive habits, making those changes stick?
Exactly. It's positioned as a strong protective agent, and the sources specifically mention it could be helpful in minimizing future damage, particularly if there's a history of, say, recreational drug use that might have caused some wear and tear.
Okay, that makes sense. So we have these core natural nootropics.
Yeah.
Now, what about the things that help them all work better? The potentiators, the essential background players, starting with B vitamins.
Right, the fundamentals. B vitamins like B1, B2, and B3 are absolutely essential cofactors in cellular energy production. Basically, they help your cells, including your neurons, make fuel. More B vitamins often means more available neuronal energy.
Better fuel efficiency for the brain?
Precisely. And B12 specifically stands out. It's vital for mood, memory, focus, and directly helps prevent nerve damage.
And there was a pretty stark warning attached to B12 in the sources.
There was. Low B12 levels are significantly linked to an increased risk of future dementia. That makes checking your levels and supplementing, if necessary, really central to long-term brain health. It's not just optional for optimization, it could be crucial prevention.
Wow, okay. Good to know. So if B vitamins help with the energy, what about the communication lines themselves? The sources talk about essential amino acids.
Think of amino acids as the raw building blocks. Your brain uses them to construct neurotransmitters, the chemical messengers like serotonin, dopamine, acetylcholine, all of them.
So if you don't have enough blocks.
You can't build the messages. If there's a dietary shortfall, the brain literally struggles to produce the neurotransmitters it needs for proper signaling. Supplementing just guarantees that the raw materials are there.
And this helps avoid that awful mental fog or crash you sometimes feel after a stimulant wears off, right? Because you've ensured the brain has what it needs to rebuild and rebalance.
Exactly. You're supporting the underlying system, not just artificially boosting it temporarily.
Which leads us nicely into targeting specific systems. If your main goal is, say, better memory and attention, the sources point towards acetylcholine.
That's right. Acetylcholine is a key player in learning and memory.
And we can directly support its production.
Yes, by supplementing with precursors like choline or phosphatidylcholine, you're essentially providing the specific building blocks needed for that neurotransmitter, helping you encode and retain information more effectively.
Okay, this is all incredibly useful. We've got the core nootropics, the energy support, the building blocks. But it all comes back to that idea of plasticity, the permanent changes.
Exactly. While supplements can be powerful tools, the real long-term win comes from enhancing that underlying plasticity. The benefits there can last a lifetime, unlike a temporary drug effect.
So what habits did the sources highlight for driving this permanent upgrade? This feels like the most important part.
Absolutely. Let's spend a bit of time here. Number one, consistently mentioned, daily exercise.
Not surprising, maybe, but why specifically for the brain?
Exercise stimulates the production of neurotrophins like BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. These are proteins that literally help grow new neurons and strengthen existing ones.
So exercise directly builds brain matter. Any specific type?
The sources suggest weight training is particularly beneficial for overall neurological health. But high-intensity interval training, HIIT, is also great, especially for non-weight training days, to keep that neurotrophin production going. Even short bursts count.
Okay, daily movement. What else?
Mental exercise is just as crucial. Meditation.
How does meditation contribute to plasticity?
Studies show that regular meditation practice actually reduces errors on tasks that require mental flexibility, the ability to switch focus or adapt your thinking. It's like training your brain to be more agile and efficient.
Interesting. Physical training and mental training. What about building materials for the structure itself?
Right, back to the building blocks. Omega-3 fatty acids, specifically EPA and DHA, these are absolutely vital components of neuronal cell membranes and, importantly, for building myelin, that fatty sheath we talked about with lion's mane.
Ah, so omega-3s provide the raw material for that crucial insulation.
Exactly. More available omega-3s means the potential for better myelination, leading to faster and clearer communication between neurons.
Okay, this is fantastic. Let's try to pull it all together now into a practical strategy. Say you, the listener, are facing a big deadline, a crucial meeting, maybe an exam. Based on everything we've covered, what's the go-to natural stack?
For that short-term push, focusing on reducing fatigue and sustaining effort, the sources point to a combination. Acetyl L-carnitine, which specifically helps reduce cerebral fatigue.
Brain tiredness, basically.
Right, and pair that with N-acetyl tyrosine. Tyrosine is a precursor to dopamine, so it helps with motivation, focus, and mood under stress. Simple amino acids, but effective for immediate stamina.
Okay, energy and focus covered. What about managing the inevitable stress or anxiety that comes with high-pressure situations and ensuring you actually retain the information, which requires sleep?
For that, magnesium threonate is specifically recommended. It's a form of magnesium known to cross the blood-brain barrier more effectively than others.
Meaning it works better in the brain.
Yes, having a more direct calming effect, helping with anxiety and promoting better sleep quality, which is critical for memory consolidation. And it tends to have fewer digestive side effects than some other magnesium forms.
Good tip. And beyond the supplements, what's the overarching daily strategy during that crunch time?
This is where those permanent habits become powerful tools. Keep exercising daily, even if it's just short bursts like a few push-ups or 30-45 seconds of jumping rope during breaks. It keeps the blood flowing and neurotrophins active.
Keep the movement going.
Absolutely. Meditate consistently, ideally twice a day for maybe 20 minutes each session, to manage stress and maintain mental clarity. And be strategic with stimulants like coffee or maca. Use them sparingly, maybe only in the final couple of days when you really need that extra kick, rather than relying on them throughout.
Okay, so it's about using the supplements as targeted support, but relying on the foundational habits, exercise, meditation, sleep as the real engine.
Precisely. The stack helps you perform, but the habits build the lasting capacity.
So reflecting on all this, we've learned that cognitive capacity isn't just some fixed intelligence score. It's heavily influenced by available energy and, maybe more importantly, the physical adaptability, the plasticity of our brain networks.
Which brings us to a really interesting final thought to leave you with. If neuroplasticity is boosted by exercise consistently day after day, and the benefits of that plasticity, the new connections, the better myelination, are essentially permanent, could it be that the most powerful, most effective, long-term smart drug isn't a pill or a powder at all?
You mean just moving your body?
Could it be that simple? Is a consistent movement practice the ultimate brain upgrade? Something to definitely think about as you integrate these findings.